All right. Anyways, so it was like 2 days ago, Anthropic dropped those commercials. They say they're going to be for the Super Bowl. I bet they are, but they're really good. And they're talking about ads coming to AI, which has already happened with Perplexity. They've been doing it for a while now. But what's interesting is OpenAI, even though they're not mentioned in the ads, they got butthurt real fast and wrote about it, responded about it, and said it was all lies and all this stuff, and it was terrible and it's deception. But they were never mentioned in the ads. I think it was a really interesting response. And I think it was a really bad response. And I think it makes them look really bad. They are basically Google as far as market share goes. Anthropic is Yahoo for Alta Vista or whatever. They're like nothing. They're punching up. OpenAI is punching down. And it just makes OpenAI look really bad. And Anthropic just look like geniuses, I think.
I think you're touching on something fairly important. And like I was talking about earlier, why would a competitive ad work? And usually when we're doing marketing and branding, like we're trying to help people understand what differentiates them, what sets them apart. But we're usually trying to do that in a way that subtly separates them from a pack. And we don't typically want people to look at their competitors and talk about them. And I remember when I was running track in high school, I think it was Dad. My dad told me not to look at any of the other runners, that I would waste energy, slow down, that I needed to look at like where I was going. And if you wasted any energy doing that, like you were going to slow down. And I've always thought about that with competitive stuff, where it's like you need to be looking at your own goal. And the more you're worried about where everybody else is, even if you're internally thinking about that and making sure that you're like setting yourself up for success against actual true market and competitive pressures, you're going to do better by focusing on where you want to be than by seeing how close everybody else is to you. And I didn't know immediately why the Anthropic ads worked so well when they're so like in your face anti OpenAI. And I agree, they don't say OpenAI. And I actually had a conversation yesterday and a guy was talking about how he felt like they were dishonest. And I was like, well, they didn't even say OpenAI. So he's like, okay, they've got plausible deniability. But I think what you just touched on was that they're small and they're punching up, and that's a huge thing. And then on top of it, to have that follow up of OpenAI coming right back out and like defending themselves, and then not just defending themselves, trying to attack, was so exactly what should happen if you want Anthropic to succeed. Like that's exactly what you do to validate their position. So it is stupid. And I did wonder, like, did someone recommend that they do this? Did they work with like a crisis PR company that said, yeah, get on X and start saying crap? I mean, like, how did they come up with that idea?
I don't know, but you're right. They just validated everything that Anthropic put in the ad, whether it's true or not. Now everybody believes, yeah, that's true. That's what OpenAI is all about. They're all about doing deceptive ads, and even the slowness of the AI to respond and the validation of the people's like points of views and everything. That's an OpenAI thing. If you use it, you know. And even Sam Altman said, yeah, that's one thing I really hate about our models. We're working on that, but it's still there today, and it's been that way for a long time. Why didn't he change it earlier? And now everyone's going to. Something that was pointed out that maybe people didn't notice, they're going to notice a lot more.
That is part of the genius of those ads, is like they're simple, but they're so outrageously layered. Like the accuracy, like I wondered if like they actually just typed those questions in and just read back what ChatGPT would say to you, because they were so totally on the money. So you had all this like subtle stuff that was layering into an overarching, like very simple idea. That just really like the complexion was so rich, and they did such a good job.
And I need to say, I absolutely love Anthropic's tagline of keep thinking. I think that is so great, because a lot of people have fallen into this trap where they basically go to AI and type in some stuff. Their idea is validated, even though it's probably garbage, and they're not thinking for themselves. So critical thinking there's a study, I think last year, that showed that critical thinking is going down because of AI. And I love that Anthropic is like trying to go against that. Whether it's true or not, keep thinking is is just such a great idea.
Their positioning is good. And I think one of the things that makes it good, and again, like I use air quotes like all the time when I'm talking about what Anthropic stands for, because I don't know what the truth is. And I expect they're probably very wicked, just like everybody else in the world. But they've done such an excellent job. There's like an undercurrent of trustworthiness, like even the fact that they left OpenAI to do something that they felt was more responsible, better. And now they've had like a very consistent kind of showing of all that stuff. Like, yes, there are a lot of really weird things, like that weird like dissertation that you shared with all of us, Jesse. You remember that? I mean, that's weird. Like there's a lot of very weird, scary stuff going on at all of these places, but
Are you talking about Machines of Love and Grace?
that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an Anthropic thing that the CEO wrote. I think it's really good. It's really interesting. Everyone should read it.
Yeah, it is. We should definitely link to that. But there's a lot of crazy, and this is a really weird uncharted territory. And the fact that it's uncharted, like in a perfect world, OpenAI would be allowed to adjust. They'd be allowed to pivot as the market is revealing itself. And they've been around a long time, but we've seen like the insane kind of hockey stick of the last few years. Like it's changing constantly, and like they should be allowed to adjust. But their problem is in their positioning and their messaging and their transparency more than anything else. And they have this whole history of saying one thing and then doing the opposite, or starting from one position in one place and then saying, okay, I guess it doesn't work. Let's just jump to something else. And it feels from the outside looking in very much like they're just jumping to the next thing. And it doesn't feel like a natural, like trustworthy evolution. It feels like a money grab.
Yeah. I was wondering if you would like to read out the CMO's response from OpenAI. Kate Rausch.
I've never read this before. So this is...
She's the CMO of OpenAI. She's the first response that I saw.
All right. Betrayal, deception, treachery, those ads are funny. And the former Meta ads executive who made them is good at his job. He had a lot of practice. Here's what's not funny. Calling ads a betrayal when your business model is selling paid subscriptions to companies. ChatGPT has more free users in Texas than Claude, trademark, had globally. Real betrayal isn't ads as control. Anthropic thinks powerful AI should be tightly controlled in small rooms in San Francisco and Davos. That's that it's too dangerous for you, that the future should be built somewhere else by someone who is smarter. We don't believe that. Every week, 300 million plus people use ChatGPT to learn how to do something. More than half the US users say that it helped them do something they once thought was impossible. Free access creates agency. When people have the tools, they decide what to build. You can just build things.
I like You Can Just Build Things. That started last year. That's really great. Why is she call it? I didn't know who did the ad. I didn't know it was someone that used to work at Meta. And I don't see why that has anything to do with anything. It doesn't matter who made the ad. The ad was made. And she says that Anthropic is got to be tightly controlled, and that they have free users in Texas and Claude doesn't have free. That's not true. They have a free tier. All of them have a free tier. I don't understand. That's easily disproven. I don't understand why she's saying this stuff.
It just sounded like a lashing out.
It feels very desperate. And a lashing out.
Yeah. So go ahead, Jesse. Sorry.
Well, just one other thing. ChatGPT has been one of the worst ones when it comes to trying to control what users can do. If you think about the old biases they had in the beginning with like Trump versus Biden, they would say you can't talk about Trump because it's dangerous, but you can write a glowing poem about Biden. It is just like totally uneven. It was just crazy.
Well, I was going to say, I noticed the same thing that you brought up about like her throwing out the Meta guy right out of the blocks. And I assumed that she was going to go the direction of like trying to throw it toward Meta. Like this is a referendum on Meta. This guy from Meta knows what Meta's all about. And so he's going to go after their use of AI. But then it's like she just threw it out and then immediately went to full on defense of OpenAI instead. And so it was really strange. I don't know what the point of that one was after all. Like it would have made more sense to me if she had gone that direction, and that's not where she went.
It's weird. I wondered if it's like even more inside baseball. Because as I've been thinking about it, I've been thinking about like, well, we all kind of know the history of OpenAI. We know that it started as a nonprofit, that they used to say really positive sounding things like unconstrained by financial return, and they had to kill it. So we know this like history and trajectory that probably is a little bit inside baseball. It's probably just a product of the type of work that we do and what we're thinking about. But that, I wondered, like, is there some other like super weird inside track that she's referring to that some percentage of people looking at that are like, oh yeah, that guy?
I do agree they're really well done. He's really, really good at what he does if he came up
He
with
is
those
really
commercials.
good. Whoever
Yeah.
he is, he
Yeah.
should get a Clio for that.
I thought, I looked it up and I thought I saw that it was Mother, that agency that started in London. But I also thought, and this is another thing that just kind of comes back to brand understanding, is like, it was so in the pocket of like, everything was so correct, like so right, so real, that it's like, it really indicates an understanding of that brand to be able to maintain their position so well through a competitive, like throwing a punch in a competitive way, for them to come out really still looking good. And I know they've rubbed some people the wrong way, but ultimately those were effective ads that I think are going to be successful for them. And that indicates a really strong understanding of the brand. So maybe there is like an insider, maybe the Facebook dude, Meta dude's an insider at Anthropic or something like that. We should probably look him up.
Yeah. I don't want to read all of Sam Altman's response, but some of it, he said, first, the good part of the Anthropic ads, they're funny. And I laughed. And if he was going to respond, it should have ended there, I think, or no response at all, because you're just validating things. He says, but I wonder why Anthropic would go for something so clearly dishonest. Our most important principle for ads says that we won't do exactly this. We would obviously never run ads in a way Anthropic depicts them. We are not stupid, and we know our users would reject that. So all ads are full of hyperbole. It doesn't matter whether it's an accurate depiction or not. It's just showing this is a thing. This is one vision of what it could be like. This is a way that people can understand that, maybe ads aren't really super great unless you want them in your LLMs. But I think it's really crazy for Sam Altman to use the word dishonest when he himself is extremely dishonest. He's been proven to be dishonest. There's like documents in court cases of him being dishonest. And I just don't think I think he should strike that word from his vocabulary, because coming from him is like instantly so easy to dismiss everything he says if you know anything about the guy.
I think you should be allowed to still see, what reality is, even if you're kind of a waffler.
Well, he's accusing them of using doublespeak while he does a similar thing on his own by trying to reframe it in this way that it is not real.
I thought it was pretty double speaky to be acting in this way, that like by forcing ads on free users, it means somehow that they have democratized to a greater degree. What maybe is true is they couldn't maintain the level of democracy that they have without these ads. But truthfully, like, people are pouring money into AI. There's massive investment. It's hard for me to believe that this doesn't have something to do with just revenue generation. Their adoption is flattened out. AI is underperforming the market at the moment. Like, I can see why you might just want some additional liquidity. And it's got to be very tempting to have all of that data and to not be capitalizing on it in every possible way that you can capitalize on it. I do think the idea of like coming after them and calling those things dishonest is it's really just silly. And rhetoric is like one of my favorite things. And there's a huge difference between rhetoric and dishonesty.
Well, the other piece of this too, I can sort of see both sides. On some level, like Sam Altman and the CMO, they're coming out and basically saying, this is about us. It kind of reminds me of Rebel Without a Cause, when I think they're making like chicken noises. Yeah, James Dean, he's freaking out. Is that meaning me? Is that meaning me? Like, there's other AIs out there. I just saw today, I'm not the biggest AI user in general, so I haven't seen it out in real life, but I just saw people complaining on X this morning saying that they were getting ads in Grok as of today. Other places are rolling the stuff out. Everybody's got some sort of an AI that they're running, and this stuff is happening. So even if this is not how ads are going to look for OpenAI, it may very well be an honest depiction of how ads are going to look for some of the other AIs out there. That's an interesting piece of it. But back to what Jesse was saying about should they have responded at all or like just stayed quiet about it, I would tend to go with the stay quiet just because of the fact that, again, there's other ones out there. Or if you want to come out and say, we're never going to do ads this way or whatever, fine. What I think would have been interesting is if they had ChatGPT watch and respond to the videos themselves and just put that out as is, unedited. Or if Sam Altman responded and was taking all of those same delays that the chat bot depiction is doing. He seems so uncanny and unusual already.
You know, that could have been awesome, is like
they could have kind
Sam
of
Altman
poked at themselves a little bit.
Yeah, Sam Altman you could have shown him in a room and he opens up ChatGPT and says, I think Anthropic is coming after me. Here's what they did. What should I do? And it like gives him a plan and he uses it or whatever. I mean, there's tons of like stupid. I really do think that taking like a stand where when you protect yourself with no humor and no, like, there's no flex there. Like, there's something really horrible about it. It's like the same principles as like when you're in high school and somebody's getting bullied or made fun of. If you respond the wrong way, you're such a jackass. Like, that's just all there is to it, you know? You have to find the right way of reacting.
Bullied. You have to know how to get bullied properly.
You have to know how to laugh. You have to know how to poke. But you can't just suddenly stand up like, that's not right, you know? You just look like an idiot. Yeah. There's like pretty much no way to do that.
When we do roll ads out, it's not going to be like that. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, all of this stuff is just like a macrocosm of like how we humans act and think and behave. And if you do something stupid that like would make you unpopular in basically any setting, you'll be unpopular in that setting, you know?
The other thing that they could have done, which I think is totally legitimate, is put the pressure back on Anthropic. Because they're going out on a limb here saying they're not going to do any kind of advertising. And it's like, is that really going to be the case? Are you really, truly going to go with no advertising if everybody else is doing it and making millions of dollars and you're just going to sit there and be hoping your subscriptions are paying the bills? They've kind of painted themselves into a corner with this. So if you like grabbed onto that and are like, we're going to remember this, that's another way to kind of move past the thing. Like it makes no business sense to say we're never going to advertise.
Really like if you're going to respond, I do like the idea of trying to take control of the narrative and take control of what's been put out there. But what Aimee was saying about Sam Altman, like asking ChatGPT what to do and it giving, you know, really hilarious advice or something entertaining that people can watch. But it reminds me of the cola wars with Pepsi and Coke using each other's trademarks in their commercials. And when you see that, you're like, oh, that's allowed. I thought that wasn't allowed. They're going to get sued or something. You think it's dangerous or whatever. And it's just really exciting when you see, as a consumer, you see brands going at it like that in a funny way. You're like, look at those two guys fighting each other. You're going to still buy the sodas or whatever, but you're entertained by the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, I think like what Aimee was saying with the insecurity side, maybe you didn't say that. Maybe it was just in my own head while you were talking about it. But like back to the school thing, when you're insecure and you're saying, no, I'm not, when someone makes an accusation against you, you're screwed immediately. You've lost. But if you have that ability to reframe things and take that bigger picture view, like what if instead of going here and defending themselves, you twisted it around to talk about the fact that like people are abandoning search engines for AI. Like they want to go directly to this thing. Like for me in the advertising world, that's all I do basically is look at advertising. So many of my clients have been asking for the last year, like, well, how do we advertise on AI? Because like they see that as the future. They don't care about advertising on Google, Bing, whatever anymore. They want to be on ChatGPT, wherever else. So like if you could take that approach as well and just look at it as like search engines are dying. We're the future. And like, we're going to figure out an ethical path forward for advertising and getting your message out in front of the right people, whatever. But instead, they went to the defense mode. And now they look like weird, squirrely creeps.
Yeah, that does bring up one thing. I've been waiting for ads to come to AI to start running ads in AI because with all of those AI, or well, not AI, but the ad networks that emerge at the beginning, they're super cheap to advertise on. Like when Facebook started doing it, it was super, super cheap. And I think that we should all be, as marketers, we should definitely be taking advantage of this.
Don't tell them all that, Jesse. Don't share our secrets.
There's plenty of room for everybody. Nobody's going to watch this.
Well, I would say that I'm excited about this revelation because I hope that it makes people think. And I really love the depiction of the wake up moment of, wait, what? Because I really think people are using AI in a way that is unhealthy and scary. And if having ads in there puts a seed of doubt into their mind for 1 second or pulls them out of this idea that they're in a conversation with a close friend, then I'm all for it. Like, I'm stoked this is going to happen. And I really like the way Anthropic pointed it out. And while it's being looked at like a super negative thing, I hope to high heavens people feel betrayed enough by their friend AI to look at it as a tool and not like a counselor or like an embedded part of their life, an outsourced brain so they don't have to think critically anymore. I'm hoping that happens. I think like ultimately these commercials are good for Anthropic, bad for OpenAI, and probably also good for humanity. And I hope to high heavens they roll those ads out so fast and that all these free users suddenly realize that they're not talking to their best friend, but a huge conglomerate, a massive organization that's consuming data at absolutely insane rates and then repackaging that data to make money. I hope they see that.
Yeah. One thing I'm thinking of is when those ads air, will anyone recognize Anthropic's logo? I have a feeling they probably won't. They might look it up because the ads are really good, but I don't know if they have I would love to see how this affects their market share.
The actual tagline says, but not to Claude, doesn't it? It says ads are coming to AI, but not to Claude.
Yeah, I will say, I'll admit freely here, I know who Anthropic is. I know who Claude is, just name recognition wise. I had no idea they were the same thing until like a week ago.
Daniel,
because I'm not a big AI user. So that's the thing. But I did appreciate they said Claude right in there, because then for someone like me, I recognize that name and say, oh, that's an alternative to Grok or the ChatGPT or whatever.
Well, it's interesting because Jesse said the thing about ChatGPT being Google, and I think it is. It really is. People think about it in terms of ChatGPTing something, or it's synonymous with the idea of AI. That's the assumption that you make when someone says they used AI to look something up. And then you've got people saying Chad and all that weird stuff. They're talking to their friend. I
remember
Chad.
Years ago when I worked, well, we all worked at it, but when I worked at this car dealership agency, a guy called me and said that he was Googling something on Bing. I feel like it's the same kind of thing. Like you're ChatGPTing on Grok or Claude.
Yeah.
Like chat GPTing something because there's too many syllables.
Well, I think that's why
I hear
it's
a lot
chat.
of people just saying chat. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I've been hearing. So are you on chat?
Yeah. Well, they spent how many zillions of dollars did they spend getting a hold of that domain? Because they know that too. And, I think that was a really smart move.
Chat.com.
Yeah.
Forgot about that. I was looking through their documents yesterday, and they still have the phone number up that you can call and talk to ChatGPT with.
Weird.
Still in beta.
I feel like I'm going backwards, but I do want to just go back to reiterate that I feel like they've done a bad job of kind of waffling. Because literally, a year-ish ago, Sam Altman was saying stuff about ads being in AI being uniquely unsettling. And he's saying specifically that it would be an absolute last resort for them. And then to come out, and again, I think it's so much of the packaging of coming out about the ads. It's well, make reference to the adjustment versus just we're doing this. It's going to be really great. Maybe not everybody heard what you said. Maybe it's just weirdos like us know this stuff. But they are consistently just going against things that they said. And I've thought about that too, what you said, Daniel, about Claude painting themselves in a corner or Anthropic painting themselves in a corner by saying we're never going to do it. And I've thought about other times brands have done that, even antibiotics in your chicken and stuff like that. It's just not a good idea to make a hard and fast
This could be their
stance.
read my lips, no new taxes moment.
Yeah, definitely something to be worried about.
It is an interesting, another piece that's interesting to me, again, from the advertising perspective that they brought up. In my mind, I've just always pictured it being sidebar ads. I don't know why. I never even thought about it being woven into the conversation. And that is a uniquely disturbing concept. If you're thinking about that, the way people are using it, like you mentioned a few minutes ago, like this is just a trusted human advisor of theirs. If it starts just like giving suggestions based on advertisers, that's really weird and creepy and like ethically gray to maybe black. Yeah, I know. We're kind of used to that already, just from like influencers. So many of the influencers have their little plugs and they're pretending like they're using these products or whatever. And people have these parasocial relationships with the influencer, so they think they're doing this thing together. But there's something even creepier on this because it is so intimate. Like when you're following an influencer, you feel like you have a connection, but this thing's actually talking to you about your specific stuff and validating you personally. So then to tell you, you know what you need this GLP-1 shot, and then your body's going to look great. It's like, it's just really, really off and disturbing.
Yeah.
It's all really weird.
These things, they do have persuasion abilities. And for people that, like, I am very old, I am somewhat immune to a lot of this stuff because I grew up through so many eras of the internet and computers, like even pre-internet, that I understand how they work in a way that people are just like, well, it just works. But if you don't understand what's going on underneath the hood, you can be tricked very easily. I've seen some brilliant people that, have PhDs and whatnot just say the dumbest things or believe the dumbest things because they have been effectively persuaded by something. And confirmation bias is real. Everyone suffers from it. But if you can't recognize that you might be suffering from it, you're going to start buying weird stuff. You're going to start believing weird stuff and doing weird stuff and cutting off weird stuff. And it's not going to be good. We all know somebody that has been negatively affected by ChatGPT already today.
It's funny because we're thinking animals, Like it's that weird combo.
It reminds me of something I saw once. It was like a screenshot from probably Facebook. It had to have been Facebook. But it was like some older AI photos from like, Civil War or something like that. And somebody's commenting saying, this is obviously AI. And someone else responded like, this predates AI. Like that was their take on it. It's like, no, the Civil War happened way before computers. I think that frame of reference is difficult. Like I really feel bad for the older generations that are so used to just like trusting what's being reported on mainstream news and stuff. They see an image and in their mind, it's like, I see it right there. That's reality.
Well, you could trust the news back in like the 80s and stuff. And they earned that trust. And now they're skating by on that trust with all the older people and lying, misrepresenting so many things.
Well, the other thing that's scary with the news is like they're using social media now. Like how many times have you seen a news report where they're like referencing something and it was like a parody account and they think it's the real thing? It's like
the Gorilla
that's
Channel
happening on real, actual news channels.
The Gorilla Channel was one of my favorites, and it was obviously a comedy writer that wrote that thing, and the news started running with it. Like, Trump thinks the Gorilla Channel is real, and he's making people turn on the Gorilla Channel, and they're running with it. Like, they're not doing any due diligence. They're not researching anything. They just say, well, this confirms my bias, so I'm going to run with it.
That's the thing that's stressful is I feel like, an AI is contributing on some level to the lack of ability to think critically. And that's kind of the whole thing is even like that, just coming back to that balance of love and science is we are really susceptible. Our brains are extremely susceptible to influence, persuasion, rhetoric. And if you don't have the framework of analytical thinking, the ability to critically think and weigh things out, and it's hard, it's uncomfortable. Brains want to be lazy. They want to stay in the just automatic mode. And people take advantage of that. And if you've like degraded people's ability to think critically because their synapses are firing at rates that they were never meant to fire at, their attention is dropped to nothing at all. You really have a community that's like ripe for serious issues.
Yeah, it really freaks me out. I'm like Jesse was pointing out that tagline of keep thinking. I like that because of how much I have seen people just stop thinking.
Yeah.
But it's very disturbing to me because, like, I will still Google things. I know a lot of people have just stopped, but I'll Google things and you get the AI overview and I look at it just out of curiosity. And I would say 50% of the time it's just flat out wrong. It's like it'll give some sort of crazy advice that I know 100% is not correct. And like, if you're one of the many users who just looks at that overview and takes the information away, like, I don't know what kind of trouble you're going to get yourself into at some point from that. So it is very frightening to see people just accepting the stuff as truth and just not even bothering to think their way through anymore.
That's been going on for a long time. I remember an essay a long time ago or something where somebody pointed out, if you read something in the newspaper that you're an expert on and recognize that they don't know what they're talking about, what else have you believed from the newspaper that you're not an expert in? Probably a high percentage of things. I actually remember reading the newspaper it was about something I was an expert in, about movies or something like the projectors. And I was like, this is all wrong. This is not how we did it. And I worked on the project, and it was just really weird to see something I knew intimate details about that were just totally wrong.
Yeah. It's weird when that happens. I remember I'm like just the right age where Wikipedia started to be a thing when I was I can't remember if it was like end of high school or college, but I remember all the teachers, professors, wherever, like trying to lay down this law of like, and Wikipedia is not a source. You can't trust what's on there. And it's like, that's just gone now. Like nobody's thinking that stuff anymore. It's like, it's just a free for all. If it's out on the internet, it's just kind of true from these certain sources. And it doesn't matter how recently people knew that they were bogus or gameable or whatever. It's like, that stuff's just gone now.
Well, I think this is a good time to wrap it up. So to all the people out there, if you like what you heard from us, let us know and we'll keep doing it. Smash that like and subscribe button. Click the bell to get notified.
Keep thinking.
Keep thinking. Also, sign up for Claude and get your $53 of Claude Opus 2.6